Have you ever felt like the weight of the impossible was placed on your shoulders? Like the world looked at you and whispered, "You can't do it." Like every door closed, every path disappeared, and every voice around you said you were not strong enough, not smart enough, not chosen enough. But imagine this moment. Imagine standing in silence after years of struggle, after nights of prayer, after moments where you almost gave up. And then suddenly, you hear a voice that changes everything. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of doubt, not the voice of the world, but the voice of God. And God says, "Finally, the time has come. Out of millions, you are the first chosen one to complete this impossible task in 2026. Think about that. The same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, the same God who raised Lazarus from the dead, that God looked at heaven, looked at earth, and then looked at you. And he said, you are the one, not because you were perfect, not because you never failed, but because you believed when others doubted. Tonight, I want you to understand something powerful. When God calls you to do the impossible, it means the impossible is already defeated. And today we are going to talk about 3 powerful truths that will transform how you see your calling in 2026. Before we expand into the full speech, here are the 3 keynotes. God chooses the unlikely to do the impossible. Your struggles were preparation for the assignment. When God chooses you, heaven backs you. Now we begin with the first keynote expanded. God has always chosen people the world underestimated. When God wanted to defeat a giant, he didn't choose the strongest warrior. He chose a shepherd boy named David. When God wanted to lead his people out of slavery, he didn't choose the most confident speaker. He chose Moses, a man who said, I cannot speak well. When God wanted to change the world with the gospel, he didn't choose kings and emperors. He chose fishermen. Do you see the pattern? God doesn't look for the most qualified person. He looks for the most willing heart. Right now, there are people listening who feel ordinary. Maybe you feel unnoticed. Maybe people around you never believed in your potential. Maybe they laughed when you shared your dreams. But heaven never laughed. Heaven was watching. Every tear you cried, heaven recorded it. Every prayer you whispered at night, heaven heard it. Every time you kept going when you wanted to quit, heaven saw it. And now the moment has arrived. God says, finally the training is complete. Finally, the waiting season is over. Finally, the one I prepared in secret is ready to step into destiny. You see, God often prepares his greatest warriors in hidden places. David was in a field with sheep before he stood before a giant. Joseph was in a prison before he ruled a nation. Jesus spent 30 years in quiet preparation before 3 years changed history. The world celebrates the stage, but God values the preparation. Some of you have been in a preparation season for years. You felt stuck. You felt forgotten. You wondered why life was so difficult. But what if those difficulties were not punishment? What if they were training? Training for the impossible task that only you can complete. God knew that if he gave the mission too early, you wouldn't be ready. So he allowed challenges to build your strength. He allowed setbacks to grow your faith. He allowed rejection to teach you that your validation comes from him, not people. And now you stand in 2026 stronger than you have ever been, not because life was easy, but because God was shaping you. Think about a sword. A sword is not powerful because it looks good. It becomes powerful because it survives fire, pressure, and sharpening. You are that sword. The fire you experienced was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to refine you. The pressure you felt was not meant to break you. It was meant to strengthen you. And now, when the world says the mission is impossible, God smiles. because he knows something the world does not know. He knows who he chose. And when God chooses someone, the impossible becomes a testimony waiting to happen. Maybe you are standing in front of a giant right now. Maybe the task in front of you looks bigger than your strength. Maybe the dream God placed in your heart scares you. But remember this truth. If the task is small, God would not need to choose you. Great assignments are given to prepare people. And the very fact that God called you means he already placed the power inside you. The world might see weakness. God sees destiny. The world might see your past mistakes. God sees your future victory. The world might see someone ordinary. God sees the person who will complete what others believed was impossible. And in 2026, when people ask how it happened, your answer will not be about your intelligence or your talent. Your answer will be simple. God chose me. And when God chooses someone, history changes. Your struggles were preparation for the assignment. There is something many people misunderstand about God's plan. When we face struggles, we often think something is wrong. We assume that hardship means God has forgotten us, or that we have somehow moved away from his purpose. But the truth is far more powerful than that. The greatest assignments from God are always preceded by the greatest preparation seasons. When God says, "Finally, you are the first chosen one to complete this impossible task in 2026," he is not speaking to someone who lived an easy life. He is speaking to someone who survived storms. Think about every difficult moment you went through, the times when doors closed in your face, the times when people doubted you, the times when you worked hard but saw no results, the nights when you prayed and felt like heaven was silent. Those moments were not random. They were part of your preparation. God was shaping your spirit in ways you could not see at the time. When a builder constructs a skyscraper, the most important part is not the visible floors that people admire. The most important part is the foundation buried deep in the ground. No one celebrates the foundation because no one sees it. But without it, the building would collapse. Your struggles were the foundation of your calling. Every disappointment dug the foundation deeper. Every challenge strengthened the structure. Every setback increased your endurance. You might have wondered why life felt harder for you than for others. Maybe you looked around and saw people moving forward easily while you were fighting battles no one else seemed to understand. But God does not prepare ordinary people for extraordinary missions. He prepares warriors. Look at the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had a dream from God that he would rise to greatness, but before that dream became reality, his life looked like a disaster. He was betrayed by his own brothers. He was sold into slavery. He was falsely accused. He was thrown into prison. Imagine how Joseph must have felt during those moments. It probably seemed like his life was moving in the opposite direction of his destiny. But every painful moment was actually preparation. Slavery taught him humility. Responsibility in Potiphar's house taught him leadership. Prison taught him patience and wisdom. When the moment finally arrived and Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he was not the same young dreamer who once told his brothers about visions. He had become a man strong enough to lead a nation. Your story is not very different. Some of you have been through betrayal that broke your heart. You trusted people who walked away from you. You gave your loyalty to people who did not value it. But even those painful moments were shaping your character. God was teaching you how to stand strong even when people leave. Some of you experienced failure. Projects did not succeed. Plans did not work out. Opportunities disappeared at the last moment. But failure has a strange power when God is involved. It teaches lessons that success never could. Failure teaches humility. Failure teaches resilience. Failure teaches you how to rise again after falling, and those lessons become weapons when the real mission begins. Some of you went through seasons of loneliness. You felt like no one understood you. You felt like you were walking a path by yourself. But sometimes God separates you from the crowd because He wants to speak to you without distraction. The desert seasons in life are not empty places. They are training grounds. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before he led Israel out of Egypt. Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness before beginning His ministry. In the quiet places where you felt forgotten, God was actually building your spiritual strength. He was teaching you to rely on Him instead of relying on applause. He was teaching you to trust His voice more than the opinions of people. And that kind of faith cannot be learned in comfortable seasons. It is forged in difficulty. Think about athletes preparing for the Olympics. They wake up early when others are sleeping. They train when their muscles ache. They push themselves past limits most people would never attempt. Why? Because they know the competition ahead requires extraordinary strength. God prepares His chosen people in a similar way. The mission waiting for you in 2026 is not ordinary. It is the kind of mission people will call impossible. It will challenge your courage. It will stretch your faith. It will demand strength beyond what you once believed you had. That is why the preparation season had to be intense. God was building endurance in your spirit. Every tear you cried was watering the future victory. Every obstacle you faced was strengthening your determination. Every time you almost gave up but kept going, your spiritual muscles grew stronger. And now when God says, finally, it carries deep meaning. Finally, the lessons are complete. Finally, the character is strong enough. Finally, the faith is mature enough. Finally, the person who once doubted themselves has become someone who trusts God completely. The truth is, if you had received this assignment years ago, you might not have survived it. The pressure would have been too great, the responsibility too heavy, the opposition too strong. But now you are different. You have endured storms that once seemed impossible. You have survived seasons that almost broke you. You have walked through darkness and still kept your faith alive. And those experiences created a strength inside you that no one can take away. The world might look at you and only see the result. They will see the success. They will see the victory. They will see the impossible task completed. But they will not fully understand the journey behind it. They will not see the nights of prayer. They will not see the moments when you fought discouragement. They will not see the quiet battles you won when no one was watching. But God saw every moment. And now He looks at you and says something powerful. You are ready. Not ready because life was easy. Ready because you proved your faith in difficult times. Ready because you kept moving forward when others would have stopped. Ready because your struggles built the strength required for the assignment. The impossible task in 2026 will not be completed by luck. It will be completed by someone whose spirit has already been trained by years of preparation. And that someone is you. When God chooses you, heaven backs you. There is a powerful truth that changes everything once you understand it. When God chooses someone for an assignment, that person is never alone. The moment God says, "You are the one chosen to complete this impossible task in 2026," something extraordinary begins to happen in the unseen world. Heaven begins to move. Many people believe success depends only on human strength, intelligence, or opportunity. But when God calls someone, the story moves beyond human limitations. When God is involved, the impossible stops being impossible. The Bible is filled with moments where heaven stepped into situations that looked hopeless on earth. When David stood in front of Goliath, People only saw a small shepherd boy facing a giant warrior. They saw armor, weapons, and physical strength on one side, and a young man with a sling on the other. But David understood something the crowd did not understand. He knew heaven was backing him. That is why he could say with confidence that the battle did not belong to him but to God. The same principle applies to every mission God assigns. When God chooses someone, heaven does not simply watch from a distance. Heaven participates, angels move, doors open, unexpected help appears. Strength arrives at the exact moment it is needed. There will be moments in your journey where you look back and realize that something beyond human ability was guiding the process. Opportunities will appear that you never planned. People will support you in ways you never expected. Solutions will arrive in moments when the problem looked impossible to solve. Those are not coincidences. Those are signs that heaven is working behind the scenes. The truth is, every impossible assignment from God carries divine support. Think about the story of Gideon. Gideon was not a famous warrior. In fact, he saw himself as weak and insignificant. When God told him that he would defeat a powerful enemy army, Gideon struggled to believe it. He questioned himself. He doubted his strength. He wondered if he was truly the right person. But God did not choose Gideon because of his confidence. God chose him because of his own power. And when the battle finally came, Gideon's small group of soldiers defeated an army that was far greater in number. How? Because heaven backed the mission. That same principle applies to your life when God calls you to complete something the world calls impossible. At first, the assignment might feel overwhelming. You may look at the challenge and think it is too big. You may question whether you truly have the ability to finish what God started. But remember something important. God never assigns a mission without providing the power needed to complete it. If God called you, He has already prepared the resources. The strength you need will come when the moment arrives. The wisdom you need will appear when the decision must be made. The courage you need will rise when fear tries to stop you. Sometimes heaven's support shows up through people. God may place the right mentors in your life. He may connect you with individuals who believe in your vision. He may bring allies who support the mission even when others doubt it. Those relationships are not accidents. They are part of heaven's strategy. Other times, heaven's support shows up through circumstances. Closed doors that once frustrated you may suddenly lead to better opportunities. Delays that once seemed painful may protect you from wrong decisions. Unexpected breakthroughs may arrive after long seasons of waiting. In those moments, you begin to realize that God's timing is perfect. One of the greatest examples of heaven backing someone is the story of Esther. Esther was an ordinary young woman who suddenly found herself in a position where she had the chance to save an entire nation. The situation was dangerous. Speaking to the king without permission could result in death. The risk was enormous, but Esther understood that her position was not random. She realized that God had placed her there for a reason. Her famous words still inspire people today when she said that perhaps she had come to that position for such a time as this. When she stepped forward with courage, heaven supported her mission. The situation that once looked impossible turned into a miraculous victory. That is how God works when He chooses someone. He positions them, He prepares them, and then heaven moves with them. You may not see the angels working. You may not hear the plans being formed in the spiritual realm. But the moment God says you are chosen, a greater force begins moving with you. That does not mean the path will always be easy. Even when heaven backs you, challenges will still appear. Opposition may rise. Criticism may come. Doubts may try to enter your mind. But those obstacles cannot stop a mission that God has already approved. They may slow you down for a moment, but they cannot cancel what God has started. Every major breakthrough in history faced resistance. Every person who changed the world faced opposition. But the difference between those who quit and those who succeed is faith. Faith is believing that heaven is working even when you cannot see it. Faith is trusting that God's promise is stronger than the fear in front of you. Faith is stepping forward even when the outcome is not fully visible. And when someone walks with that kind of faith, something powerful begins to happen. Fear loses its control, doubt loses its power, confidence begins to grow. Not confidence in yourself alone, but confidence in the God who called you. That is why the statement, "You are chosen to complete the impossible task in 2026, carries such extraordinary meaning. It means heaven has already approved the mission. It means God has already seen the ending of the story. It means that the victory exists in God's plan even before the journey fully begins. People around you might still doubt. They might say the task is unrealistic. They might question your ability. But their opinions do not determine the outcome. God's decision does. And when heaven backs someone, the impossible becomes the stage where miracles happen. Years from now, people may look at your story and wonder how it happened. They will see the result and assume it must have required extraordinary power. They will wonder how one person could accomplish something so difficult. But you will know the truth. You will know that every step of the journey carried unseen help. You will know that every breakthrough had divine timing. You will know that heaven walked beside you from the beginning. And when people ask how you completed the impossible task, your answer will be simple and powerful. You will say that when God chooses someone, heaven moves with them. And nothing on earth can stop what heaven has already decided. The moment God says, "Finally," it means the waiting is over and the purpose has arrived. The impossible task placed before you in 2026 is not a burden meant to crush you. It is a calling designed to reveal what God has already placed inside you. You were chosen not because you never struggled, but because you kept believing through the struggle. You were chosen not because you were the strongest, but because your faith stayed alive when doubts surrounded you. Every hidden season prepared you, every hardship strengthened you, and every prayer carried you closer to this moment. Now the time has come to rise with courage and step into the mission that once looked impossible. The world may question it, circumstances may challenge it, but when God calls someone and heaven backs that calling, no obstacle is greater than the purpose of God. So walk forward with faith, hold firmly to the promise placed in your heart, and remember that the God who chose you will also guide you to victory.